something that you got a lot of attention for recently was you were named, you were in the so-called Twitter files, one of the episodes of the Twitter files, because, for a period of time, I'll let you discuss how long this was and what exactly happened. I don't remember all the details, but your account specifically was suppressed on Twitter in different ways. So can you talk a little bit about what was uncovered there recently, or made public at least, and why was that happening, and what exactly, how exactly was your account being suppressed?
So Barry Weiss, was a fantastic reporter. She got invited by Elon Musk to look into the Twitter's files regarding regarding its censorship efforts during the pandemic, and along with other topics. What I learned, Nick, is that at Twitter there are various tools that you can use to look to see if people have had people, like the status that people have for their files, for their account. So for instance, my account, if you look at the tool that they have, has a little yellow badge that says I'm on a trends blacklist. If you click into those things, you can then see, actually, Elon invited me to go to Twitter, so this is why I actually got to see my own thing. If you click in, you can see the history of that trends blacklist. Now, what is a trends blacklist? A trends blacklist it says that that my tweets, can go, and other people that follow me can see them, but it will never get on this trending kind of status, so that people outside of my own network can see. It'll never show up in other people's things saying, "Oh, other people like this kind of tweet," right? Or trending, so that a very large fraction of the Twitter sphere sees it.
And why were you designated as being blacklisted?
So I don't know that for certain. What I do know is two things. One is that I was put on that trends blacklist the day I joined Twitter in August of 2021, which is interesting. That day I published a link to the Great Barrington Declaration. That was the most important thing I put on Twitter that day. And then the second thing I know is that, and this is based on a lawsuit that I'm participating in against the Biden administration, by the Missouri and Louisiana Attorney General's office and the New Civil Liberties Alliance. It's a First Amendment lawsuit. What we know from that lawsuit is that there were a dozen federal agencies cooperating closely together to provide instructions in regular contact with big tech, including Twitter. And the content of those instructions included what to censor, what ideas to censor in the name of censoring misinformation, and who to censor. In Twitter, in the Twitter headquarters, what I could see in the tool was that there were multiple people that complained about me the day I joined Twitter, and that led to the trends blacklist. It didn't say who complained. It didn't exactly talk about the process that Twitter used to decide that I deserved to be on this trends blacklist, but it was. It seems very likely, just connecting the dots, that federal agencies, potentially even including the NIH or the CDC, told Twitter about, if not me in particular, the Great Barrington Declaration, the idea of focused protection, or something like that. I also found, I searched on Martin Kulldorff, who's the Harvard professor that signed the co-authored the Great Barrington Declaration. He was actually put on a trends blacklist for a while in July of 2020. And when I asked him what was happening then on Twitter, he said that he was posting links to some Swedish data that suggested that opening schools was not harmful to kids or particularly to teachers either. Over and over and over again. He said he was most active during those few short months in July 2020. That's when he was most active on Twitter, posting that because he wanted to help tell people that the scientific evidence did not favor opening schools. And then he was put on a trends blacklist for that. He actually wasn't on a current trends blacklist, although he was 3 times in 2022 was put on a trends blacklist. I still don't know fully the process, but it seems really clear that Twitter could not have been doing this just simply on their own. that just don't have the expertise or the frankly the motive. The reason they did this is because they were encouraged by the government to do so.
And so how long were you at Twitter with Elon and the employees there?
Oh, that was fun. I was there. I like arrived at like 3 p.m. and then I left around 9. I talked to Elon for an hour. He was very generous with his time. And actually, I talked to some Twitter employees, several of whom were pulled over from Tesla. They were there. It's like Saturday night. They told me that they'd be there until 3. That Elon was there until 3, and then at night that like it was just they were like they actually looked they were having fun. It was like it's like you walk in, there's this like 5-star hotel that's like completely empty. There's just all these engineers huddled around trying to like fix things.
Interesting. What you were only with him for an hour. It's not like you know the guy super well, but given the acquisition of Twitter and the changes that have happened since Elon Musk took over, given what you discovered about yourself in the Twitter files release, given your short interaction with him there, what's your general impression of him? Is he, is he similar to the persona that he puts out there? Is he actually sort of the free speech crusader that he's at least marketing himself to be? Is there some kind of intergalactic 5D chess going on where there's much more than meets the eye? Like what did you make of him compared to his public persona?
I mean, actually, at first, I was actually really impressed by him, Nick. I mean, I think he made a joke about he spent $44 billion to buy Twitter, and he made a joke. Look, I could have bought a nice island for the same same money. And the reason he bought Twitter, he told me, was because he is absolutely incensed by the censorship, and that he views that censorship by Twitter as incredibly damaging for our civilization. That's what motivated him. I was actually I wanted to know if I could share the information I've been getting from the Twitter engineers about my blacklist and so on. I asked him if I could, and I pointed out that look, I'm not going to sue because I think I fully support what Twitter 2.0 is doing in revealing this information. I think it's very healthy for the public to know what happened. But there are a lot of things that potentially could lead to lawsuits. He said, look, he hates the idea of wasting his time sitting in depositions, but if that's what it took to to restore free speech to the world, then it's worth it. I really think he's motivated by these free. Now, there's been like complications with someone doxed his where his family was or something, and then a whole bunch of journalists that he suspended and let back on. So there's like complications. Free speech doesn't mean to me you let every single thing go. If you're like threatening somebody, obviously that's not free speech. That's a direct threat, but as a broadly speaking, that's his goal. That's the goal I thought that he told me he had, and I believe him. He wanted to restore the ability for people to disagree with each other, even on positions where the government was saying this is misinformation on Twitter. And I think that's exactly what he's done. And actually, the other half of it is I think he actually is against lockdowns and has been for the whole pandemic. That became clear when we talked about the harms of the lockdowns. Some of the stuff we discussed, I told him as well there. And I think he's sincerely offended by the idea that lockdowns have harmed so many people, and that if we'd had a free discussion, maybe they wouldn't have happened.